I'm a scientist who spent decades studying the inventions that shaped our world, but there's one story that haunts me. The story of a man who brought the human voice to the world, only to have his name erased from history because of 2 hours. You're holding a phone, calling friends, sending texts. But do you know who really made this technology possible? It's not Alexander Graham Bell, as we were taught. It's Elisha Gray, a genius stripped of his glory, betrayed by the world, and forgotten in the shadows. On February 14, 1876, Gray submitted a patent caveat for the telephone at the US Patent Office. Just 2 hours earlier, Bell had filed his application. 2 hours, a fleeting moment, but enough to obliterate Gray's lifelong dream. I wonder, how could we forget someone who transformed how humanity connects? Every call you make, every text you send, carries his breath. But who remembers his name? Today I invite you, like two friends talking under the glow of a late-night lamp, to explore the story of Elisha Gray, the silent hero of the telephone. It's a journey filled with emotion, from towering inventions to crushing injustices to a resilience that leaves us in awe. Before we begin, please hit like and subscribe to Obscure Minds to support us in telling more untold stories of science. And now, let's embark on this journey, starting with the early days of a genius in a small village. Elisha Gray was born on August 2, 1835, on a small farm in Barnesville, Ohio, in a humble Quaker community. From a young age, Gray was different. While his friends played in the fields, young Elisha, with tiny hands, tinkered with a makeshift telegraph made of wood and copper wire. I can picture him, 10 years old, sitting under an oil lamp, eyes sparkling as the first signals clicked through the wire. It wasn't just a child's game, it was the spark of a genius. At 12, tragedy struck. Gray's father passed away, leaving the family in poverty. Elisha, the dreamy boy, had to work as a carpenter and blacksmith to support his mother and siblings. But his passion for science never faded. He taught himself, devouring books on electricity and mechanics, even with just a few hours after exhausting workdays. In 1857, at 22, he enrolled at Oberlin College in Ohio, a progressive school where he dove into physics and electrical studies. There, Gray built a device to measure electrical resistance, helping him understand how currents move, the foundation for his future inventions. In 1865, Gray earned his first patent, US Patent 49,885, for a self-adjusting telegraph relay, improving signal clarity over long distances. This invention caught the eye of Western Union, the telecom giant of the era. In 1869, Gray partnered with Enos Barton to found Gray and Barton Company in Cleveland, manufacturing telegraph equipment. This company later became Western Electric, a cornerstone of modern telecommunications, supplying equipment to AT&T and shaping global connectivity. But Gray wasn't just a businessman. He was a passionate scientist, always pushing technology's limits. In 1872, he developed the multiplex telegraph, allowing multiple signals to travel on a single wire, a breakthrough in telecom. The Chicago Tribune on June 15, 1872, called it a marvel of engineering. As a scientist, I can feel Gray's joy watching his ideas come to life. The pinnacle came in 1874 with Gray's invention of the musical telegraph. On December 29, 1874, in a church in Highland Park, Illinois, he stood before a crowd, pressed keys on a device, and the melody of Yankee Doodle echoed from afar through wires. The audience was stunned. Newspapers dubbed it a scientific miracle. Patented in 1875, US Patent 166,095. This device used electromagnetic oscillations to transmit sound, the precursor to the modern music synthesizer and speaker technology. Imagine, a century before electronic music, Gray dreamed of sound uniting humanity. But Gray's ambition stretched further. In 1875, he began experimenting with transmitting human speech over wires. In his Highland Park lab, he developed a telephone prototype using a liquid transmitter, a device that converted voice vibrations into electrical signals. On June 10, 1875, during a test, Gray heard a voice travel through the wire for the first time. I can feel his overwhelming joy the moment humanity first bridged distance with speech. Gray wrote in his journal, "I did it. The voice can fly." It was a turning point for telecommunications, with Gray at its heart. But as the light of his success shone brightest, a cruel shadow began to loom over his dream. February 14th, 1876, a day I, as a scientist, can never forget. Picture Elisha Gray in a small Chicago room, carefully finalizing his patent caveat for the speaking telegraph, his name for the telephone. His hands trembled slightly, not from cold, but from a fierce belief that this device would change the world. He wrote to his lawyer, Wilberforce Eames, "I've created a machine to transmit the human voice. This is the future." But in Washington, hundreds of miles away, a fateful race was unfolding. That morning, Alexander Graham Bell's representative filed a telephone patent application at the U.S. Patent Office, number 174,465. Just 2 hours later, Gray submitted his caveat describing the exact same idea, transmitting speech over wires using a liquid transmitter, a design he'd tested since 1874. 2 hours, a fleeting moment, but enough to tear apart Gray's lifelong dream. Bell was granted the patent, Gray was denied. But the story doesn't end with a cruel coincidence. Historical records, including Gray's letters and patent office reports, hint at something suspicious. Bell, through his lawyer, may have accessed details of Gray's liquid transmitter on the filing day. Historian David Hounshell, in a 1975 Technology and Culture article, asked, was Bell favored by powerful connections? Gray, an independent scientist, had no such backing. "I'm not here to judge." But imagine you're Gray. You've spent years in the lab, sacrificing sleep and health to create a marvel. Then one day, you find your idea in someone else's hands, and the world calls them the inventor. How would you feel? Gray didn't collapse immediately. He sued Bell, taking the case to court in 1877. Backed by Western Union, Gray believed justice would prevail. But then came a betrayal from those he trusted most. In 1878, Western Union, for business gain, bought Bell's patent and partnered with him. Gray was abandoned by his allies, forsaken by the law. In a letter to a friend, he wrote, "I've lost everything, money, reputation, my dream. But I cannot stop." Life afterward was a series of dark days. Gray kept inventing, but his fame faded. Newspapers, once hailing him as a scientific wizard, now only mentioned Bell. In 1880, he moved to Boston, trying to rebuild his career. But every step was heavy. His family lived in poverty. His son, Edward, recalled Gray often sitting by the window, staring at the sky, as if seeking answers from the universe. The tragedy's climax came in 1901. Gray died on January 21st at 65 in Newtonville, Massachusetts. He passed away in poverty, without a word of tribute. The Boston Globe on January 22, 1901, wrote simply, "Elisha Gray, an inventor, has died." An inventor, the man who brought the voice to the world, who laid the foundation for modern telecom, remembered in a few cold lines, "I feel a surge of anger. And you, do you feel the injustice?" But from that darkness, a resilient flame roared back to life. Elisha Gray was not a man easily defeated. Despite betrayal and oblivion, he rose again, like a fire blazing through a storm. As a scientist, I can't help but admire his extraordinary resilience. When the world turned its back, Gray chose to keep creating, not for fame, not for wealth, but because he believed science could transform lives. In 1888, at 53, when many would have retired, Gray invented the telegraph, a device that transmitted handwritten text over wires, patented as number 386,815. Imagine, in a world without email or texting, Gray envisioned sending writing across distances as if penning a letter to someone across the ocean. Demonstrated at the 1893 Chicago Electrical Exhibition, it left audiences in awe. Electrical World on June 10, 1893, wrote, "Gray has once again proven himself a master of telecommunications." The telegraph became the precursor to the fax machine and, later, all digital data transmission we use today. I want you to pause for a moment and think about this. A man robbed of his greatest invention, betrayed by partners, called ordinary by the world, still managed to rise, create, and shape the future. How did he do it? I found the answer in a letter Gray wrote in 1890. Every failure is a step toward truth. Those words, like a torch, light the way for every scientist, every young person facing hardship. Gray wasn't just an inventor, he was a symbol of resilience, of unwavering faith in dreams. Gray's legacy endures, though his name is obscured. Western Electric, the company he co-founded, became a telecom backbone, producing equipment for AT&T and shaping the digital world. The telephone, which Gray helped pioneer, is now the heart of every connection. The music synthesizer, born from his musical telegraph, echoes in every song you hear. And the telegraph. It paved the way for faxes, emails, and texts. But what haunts me most are Gray's final notes, preserved at the Smithsonian Institution. He wrote, "Sound is the key to the universe. One day it will connect not just people, but the stars." Did Gray foresee Wi-Fi, the internet, or wireless tech? I don't know, but I know he dreamed bigger than anyone in his time. And that dream, though forgotten, still guides us, like an eternal light from the past. Elisha Gray, a name shrouded by history, yet a flame illuminating the past, present, and future. From the first melodies carried through wires to the voices connecting humanity, he gave us a world no one dared dream of in the 19th century. But he also taught us a painful lesson. Genius isn't always celebrated. 2 hours, a few lines in a newspaper, and a world that turned away. That was the price he paid. I tell this story not to judge, but to make us reflect. Every time you pick up your phone, send a text, or listen to music, remember Gray. He has no grand monuments, no textbooks singing his praise. But every connection you make bears his mark. We've forgotten him for too long. As a scientist, I feel guilty for that. And you, do you feel a hint of injustice? Ask yourself, who else is out there, other Elisha Grays, forgotten in history's shadows? Are there silent geniuses who sacrificed everything to light our world? Share your thoughts in the comments. What about Gray moves you most? If you believe he deserves to be remembered, hit like and share this video to let his name ring far and wide. Thank you for joining me in this late-night moment to tell the story of a hero. Subscribe to Obscure Minds, where we keep uncovering untold tales of science. I'll see you again on another journey to shine a light on history's hidden corners.